A very good morning to you, Kenyan citizens. Welcome. This is the Current Affairs segment. It is your trusted source for the latest news, insightful discussions, and impactful stories shaping our nation and beyond. I'm Angela Kabete, and what we're going to do, we're going to dive into the latest headlines and uncover the truth behind the news of what has been happening that is in our country and beyond. So make sure that you stay tuned as we break it down right here, right now. Today I'm alone, so it's me and you, so make sure that you get to talk to me. That is on our social media handles, that is on Facebook and YouTube at Mizpah TV Kenya, and also on WhatsApp number that is on 0799200100. Niambie unanitazama ukiwa wapi, pande gani, na usahau kuniambia jina lako. Make sure that you get to share that link with everybody so that we stay updated of what is happening. And it is always our norm before anything else to make sure that we get to give you that is the verse of the day. Let's head over to the verse of the day. It comes from, that is Proverbs 28 verse 13, and I read it. This is what it says: people who conceal their sins will not prosper, but if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy. That is what the verse of today is reminding us this morning. Let me help you understand what this verse means. People who conceal their sins. So it means that hiding sins leads to failure. You know, when someone refuses to admit their wrongdoings, their sins, things that are not ungodly, they block your own growth, success, and spiritual progress. And then it continues and says, who conceal their sins will not prosper. So concealment blocks godly blessings, the divine blessings that God has put for us as Christians, as believers, you know. So and then it continues and says, but if they confess. So confession is the first step to restoration. You know, being honest about your mistakes, admitting that I've done this is not godly, is not good. You know, before God, that opens doors. It shows a broken heart, genuineness, you know, as a Christian, as a believer. And then it says that it continues and says, but if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy. You know, so it means that mercy is available for those who repent their sins. God is willing to forgive us, willing to show compassion to those who confess and genuinely turn from their sins. And then so this means that prosperity is tied to integrity, you know, a life of honesty, a life of transparency in the area of work, in families, in leadership, in everything that we do. So it means that life of honesty and transparency leads to stability, peace, and often material and spiritual success to us as human beings, as Christians, and as people who trust in God. And that is the verse of the day. I believe that it has been an encouragement for you. Make sure that you practice what the verse of today has told us, that is honesty, transparency, and also making sure that you repent your sins each and every day. And now let's head over to what has been happening, because a lot has been happening that is in our country and beyond. Kumekuwa tuna mambo mingi each and every day. There are new stories each and every day, you know, in different sectors. We have politics, we have education, we have the health sector, we have the economy, we have legal and crime. And that's why today I'm here to make sure that you stay informed of what has been happening that is in our country. And today I have, that is the Daily Nation with me and the Standard. So what I'm going to do, tutaangalia zote ni story, ni what is happening. And let's sort over to what has been happening. I'm starting with the Daily Nation. And page 1 of the Daily Nation, this is one of the top story that has been trending, that has been happening, a story that a story that had been mentioned last month. And they're saying how MP Mishara made millions in organs trade. And you know, this is what really happened. This is an investigation that has been imekuwa ikifanywa, an activity that imekuwa ikifanywa since 2018 and early 2025. And from the the statistics and from the figures that were given, 417 donors and 314 recipients through medical hospitals ndio walikuwa wanafanya this organ trade iendelee. And now let's hear what they're saying. A scandal, a government investigation has uncovered evidence of organ trafficking involving medical hospitals, citing forged patient records, cash payments to donors, and exploitation of poor people to supply kidneys for wealthy recipients. This is not a good thing at all, right? In addition to that, they're saying the facilities owner, former cases MP Dr. Swarap Mishra, faces a criminal probe. That story is in page 10, and also you can see the same story has been highlighted. That is in the Standard, page 1, and they're saying that dirty organ trade, and they're saying messy business. A scathing government report has implicated Medihill Hospital and its founder Dr. Swarap Mishra in a suspected organ trafficking ring, revealing a trail of coerced donors, falsified documents, and transplant tourism. Investigators are calling for urgent criminal probes, accusing the facility of commercializing kidney transplants and operating with impunity under failed regulatory oversight. The report has lifted the veil on the country's unregulated body part industry. And I can see the people who are involved here, watu nyometajwa, that is Dr. Muthi, a chief consultant and a nephrologist, and then we have Dr. Sananda Bag, the chief kidney transplant surgeon, and then we have someone that is called Dr. Uyu Surayake aijae kwa tujuni kwa nini, but he's called Dr. VJ Kumar, and you know, these are the people that have been involved in the kidney transplant and investigation that is still ongoing. And let's see what they're saying. That is in page 1 of the Daily Nation. The story is in page 10. Let's head over to page 10. Okay, in page 10. So in page 10, I can see here they're saying Medihill on the spot of organs trade, and they're saying 4 senior staff at Medihill Hospital should be investigated for criminal involvement in organ trafficking, affecting an independent team uncovered evidence of exploitation that spans multiple countries and involves vulnerable populations. These are the poor people out there. And they're saying a government investigation uncovered possible organ trafficking at Medihill, citing forged patient records, cash payments to donors, and exploitation of the poor people to kidney and wealthy recipients. And they're saying the 18-member committee appointed by the Health Cabinet Secretary, that is Aden Duale, 3 months by Aden Duale, 3 months ago delivered a damning verdict. It is said that Dr. Swarap Mishra, the chairman and the director of Medihill Group Hospital, and the other people that are involved, they have been making this operation go on, and at least now they've been investigated. But you know, these also have an impact to the common mwananchi, that is donor risks and health consequences, and then we have that is economic and ethnic consequences. That is also another thing, exploitation of the poor people, which is not a good thing at all, because we saw that 2 months ago people are complaining walikuwa wamefanya donation ya kidneys but they had not been paid, which is not a good thing at all. At least we can see that legal action is being taken, investigations are being done out there, and I hope that justice will be found, and also when you are involved on this, actions will be taken against them, because this is not a good thing at all. That is what we had when it comes to the health sector. And now on other stories of what has been happening, when it comes to matters to do with finance and the civil servants, on page 1 of the Daily Nation, I can see civil servants are set for a pay rise to caution them against rising statutory deductions. That is story is in page 6. So it seems that there will be a salary increment for that is the civil servants. And I'm in page 6 of the Daily Nation, and they're saying SRC to review a civil servant salary, and auditor has flagged non-compliance with 1/3 basic payroll. And they say government employees are set for a pay review after the Salary and Remuneration Commission pledged to evaluate their remuneration to caution them against punitive deductions on their monthly pay slips, because kila mtu anajua deductions, especially kwa watu wa paychecks, when you rely on paychecks, they've been too high. And they're saying Commission Chairperson Sami Chepkwony made the disclosure during a sitting on the Public Accounts Committee on the National Assembly following Auditor General's Nancy Gathongo's report flagging non-compliance with 1/3 basic payroll in the Employment Act. So let's see if mshahara yao itaongezwa, because that's a thing that is being planned. Still it's in negotiation, and they're saying that 2.7% of the gross income that individuals contribute to the SHA, that is to the civil servants. And also, so this means that wataongezewa pia the allowances, the commuter. For example, let me give you the example with the teachers. What they are receiving right now, the house allowances wanapata, that is 3,850 to 50,000. When it comes to the commuters, what they're getting, that is 4,000 to 16,000. And then when it comes to the hardship, they're getting, that is 6,600 to 38,100. And then when it comes to the leave, they're getting, that is 4,000 to 10,000. So these are some of the benefits that they are getting. So let's see kama wataongezea, which is a good thing. But I'm wondering, they think that Kenya hakuna pesa. If wanaongezewa pesa, it means that we have money in our country. But this is something they have not yet decided. This is something that is still being negotiated. And the bottom line, at least they'll be able to cater for their families and everything, the day-to-day needs zenye wako nazo. And they're saying that audit reveals that a review of the payroll deductions often proceeds to the 2/3 maximum allowed under the Section 19 of the Employment Act 2025, and employment including employees from making deductions beyond 1/3 of an employee wages. So instead of 1/3, 1/3 of their salaries wamekuwa wakikatwa, that is 2/3, which is I guess that is the reason as to why wanasema waongezewe mshahara. And that is matters to do with finance and the civil servants. And on other stories, let's dive into the education. And education imekuwa ikiface crisis mingi sana, and actually since January 2025 this is education imekuwa ikiface a lot of crisis. And that's why you can see that is page 1 of the Daily Nation. I can see that they have violated education, it has been mentioned. And also on the Standard page 1, pia education imekuwa mentioned, that is in page 2. And let me just mention, let me give you a breakdown and a brief review of what has been happening in the education since January. And kumekuwa na delay in funding disbursement, that is in January for the CBC sector. Especially delay in capitations. The government, they say they have released these, but when it comes to the schools, it's a different things, especially when it comes kwa ile capitation ya kujenga madarasa ya CBC. And then kumekuwa na increment of university dropouts according to statistics because of help delays and university fee hikes due to budget constraints. So it has led to dropouts of many students out there, especially those from poor backgrounds. And then kumekuwa na CBC implementation struggles, confusion between madarasa ya kujengwa ya grade 9, and then Then when it comes to that is, and the impact of it is parents ndio wamekuwa affected, because parents have to go back to their pockets, wanatoa pesa mfukoni, they buy the books because capitation ijakuwa ikifika kwa mashule in time kununua vitabu za CBC. And then you have teacher shortage, transfers, and then education strikes and unrest, because tumekuwa tukiona walimu wakisema wata strike. These are some of the challenges that the education sector have been facing since January. And now on page 1 of the Daily Nation, they're saying that free education not sustainable. That statement was said by Mbadi. He's the Treasury CS, he's called John Mbadi, has revealed that the government is struggling to find free education programming implemented over 2 decades ago, even as an audit criticizes the new university funding model. So if they're saying free education not sustainable, this goes to the public schools. Wewe kama mzazi ningependa kujua maoni yako. Do you feel like still have that thing that we call free education? Because even according to John Badi, the treasurer, the CS, anasema that free education is not sustainable. And that story is in page 4 and 5. Let's check out what they're saying. They're saying that page 4, this is what they're saying. We have been living a lie on funding free education. That is what Mbadi says. Finally, at least now they have said this, because parents will be complaining out there. And they're saying remarks comes from amid demands from the principals for the release of 18 billion. And the Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has admitted that the government has not been disbursing the full capitation amounts under the free education programming, citing a constrained fiscal space. That is what they're saying. And Mbadi has revealed that instead of the recommended, that is 22,244 per secondary school learner annually, the National Treasury has been releasing that is 16,900. School principals have blamed the shortfall for the numerous challenges in public schools face. The Ministry of Education is required to disburse capitation in the 3 tranches, that is 50, 30 and 20%. That statement came from from Badi. And then there's a sentiment from Peter Orero, that is Kibra MP, and this is what he said. Where is the money going, and why won't the Ministry of Education tell schools to budget for 17,000 instead of misleading them with 22,000? This brings us to that aspect of transparency that is from the government when they are releasing their funds, when they are releasing the funds. And then in addition to that, they're saying low enrollment. However, the government will consider a review if revenue performance improves. That is what he added. That is Mbadi. His remarks comes as the government plans to merge some secondary schools with low enrollment to optimize basic resources that they have. And then they're saying last week, Basic Education PS Julius Bitok said this move followed the recent grade 9 placement exercise, which revealed that over half of the 9,750 secondary schools were not selected by learners. So what will happen kwa hizo mashule zenye wanafunzi wa kuchagua? And they're saying without enrollment, affected schools will not receive capitations and may face closure. A recent report by Zizi Africa Foundation, they're saying that also they have identified inadequate capitation and teacher shortages as major impediments to quality education in the public schools. So what will happen, because tuliona jana bado the civil servants wakiambiwa that they should also make sure that they utilize the public amenities that we have. That includes the public schools. And still on education, that is on page 5. I can see here we have, that is the Auditor General Nancy Gathongo. And they're saying education, the plan has also faced legal challenges after a court declared discriminatory, thus unconstitutional. And they're saying higher education funding model faulty, inefficiencies of the system seen undeserving students get loans. That is what the auditor says in the report. So let me read a little bit so that you can understand. Deserving students are denied funding because of the higher education funding model is faulty, according to the Auditor General, that is Nancy Gathongo. And in her report, Ms. Gathongo noted that undeserving students, including those who had deferred their studies, were allocated money thanks to the funding model numerous shortcomings. So mpaka watu wenye wamedifaa wamekuwa wakipokea pesa. This is not a good thing, because kuna watu wenye hawajakuwa wakipokea help because pesa imekuwa kidogo. But according to her statement, they're saying undeserving students, including those who have deferred. So we are wondering, you know, to the system, to the management, is there accountability? You know, where are we heading as a nation? And the audit attributed that the problems that the model is facing to lack of integration between it and Kenya University's College Central Placement. So I hope that they'll check out these things, because najua peer education tumekuwa tukiona kumekuwa na 33 ghost schools, you know. Wamekuwa wakipokea capitation each and every year, you know. Each and every financial year wamekuwa wakipokea capitation. Now we're wondering, hiyo pesa imekuwa ikienda wapi? And now the fact that they have realized this, you know, about the ghost schools, hiyo pesa itarejeshwa, what will really happen? And they're saying also 2023 year the government rolled out the model for financing, that is the higher education. This is a report that is from the Auditor General Nancy Gathongo, who appeared before the National Assembly Cohesion and Equal Opportunities Committees, that is Equal Opportunities Committees. I hope they do a follow up on this, because education is a primal thing. In kitu ina affect watu wengi sana, and you know, if everything kumekuwa na shortage of capitation, you know, good schools, the students who don't deserve to get this help wamekuwa ikipokea, mwenye anakuwa affected ni the common mwananchi and the parents. So I hope they do a follow up on this, so that these issues will not be happening, that is in the education sector. And away from the education, and still on the education sector, I can see that is on the Standard page 1. They have highlighted also matters to do with education. They're saying parents to feel school fees pain after treasury cuts funding in the education. You know, I'm wondering, even still after the challenges that konazo kwa the education, still the treasury, they have cut the funding. That story is in page 2. Let's check out. They're saying that good schools get millions amid looming dearth of free education. The Treasury CS John Bahati has admitted that they cannot sustain free education. Ironically, good schools and non-existent learners have gobbled up billions. So what will really happen in the education sector? Because this is not a good thing at all. This is the same story that I've read, that is in page 1 of the Daily Nation, and they're saying that parents might soon pay fees for their children after top officials declared that the government was unable to fund free education, even as it emerged that millions of shillings have been spent on ghost schools. So this burden yote tu inarudi kwa mwananchi, the common mwananchi. Let's see what will happen. And away from the education sector, on other stories of what has been happening that is in our country, there is a story that I saw that is on the Daily Nation. Let's check it out. I think it's in the Standard, concerning the president is in the Standard, and that is page 1. It has been highlighted. It is a highlight, and they're saying NURU says that Ruto is gambling. Ruto is our president, is gambling with the country's future in finance deals. So that story is in page 6 and page 8. So let's check it out on what they mean when it says that the president is gambling with the future of our nation. So they're saying that Kiharu MP Dindi Nyoro says that Ruto says that our president, that is Ruto, is gambling with the country's future in finance deals. And they're saying that former budget committee boss says that government is engaging in shoddy loans deals. He claims the commitments being made will return to bite the taxpayers in a few years. And you know, the taxpayers, it's you, the Kenyan citizens, the common mwananchi out there, a day-to-day person. And they're saying Kiharu MP Dindi Nyoro has hit out at President William Ruto as gambling with the country's futures through his administration's opaque financing approach, which has generated over, that is, for 69 billion in 1 year. That is the debt pegged on the future taxes and levies without parliamentary approval. So can you say the president amekuwa kufanya hii mambo yote without involving the parliament, because hao ndio huwa wanahusika kwa kupitisha. A former chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee listed ongoing 44 billion bonds issued by Lindsay Finco fund the construction of Talanta Sports Stadium, the borrowing of 175 billion through securitization of fuel levy. These are the things that he mentioned. And then akasema that is 50 million spent, 50 million meant for intelligence, and then 200 billion for internal security, which he stressed has not been put into good use. So this brings us to that aspect here, accountability and transparency, and how they utilize these funds, because at the end of the day, even if they take these debts, mwananchi tu ndio atalipa. And you know, if we're not able to pay these debts, ndio unapata sometimes prices zimekuwa hiked with the intentions of getting the money to repay, that is, the loans that they have taken. And then they're saying on Wednesday, the president admitted that the funding of Talanta Stadium was similar to the fuel supply innovation. And so this amplifies what Dindi Nyoro has just said. And at a glance, they have violated what Nyoro criticizes. And let me read. That is 44.7 billion for the construction of 60,000 Talanta Sports Stadium, which he claims will accrue a debt of 100 million. And then we have the borrowing of, that is 175 billion through the securitization fund of the fuel levy. And then we have, that is 50 billion meant for National Intelligence Service, and failure by the institution to prevent loss of life and destruction of property during the protest. So was this billion spent the way it was supposed to, you know, because they're still supposed to protect life, especially that is the national intelligence, the police. Have they been doing that? And then we have, that is 200 billion for internal security, and 200 billion for internal security, and failure by the government to prevent that is violent protests. So this is what he's saying. And then they have mentioned future generation. The future generation will be forced to shoulder the burden. Every child born in the next 15 years will have a loan tag for money. They have no idea on how it was used, and there is nothing to see. And then he said the overstretched debt levels had forced the government to resort to secret books of debt to obscure the true extent of borrowing. And one of the secret books that he has mentioned was the fuel levy. The second now is Talanta that I have mentioned. And now anasema the government has borrowed 44.8 billion money spent today, but paid by Kenyans through taxes, especially from betting and gambling over the next 15 years. And you know, last month our debt was standing at that is 11.2 trillion. So where are we heading as a country? Na ningependa kujua maoni yako ni yapi as a Kenyan citizen out there. Please talk to me on 0799 200 100. And then still on the same, that is that on what Dindi Nyoro mentioned, anasema that beyond the stadium project, he criticized the government to fuel fuel supply programming and the asset-backed infrastructure, which he said had already raised that is 175 billion outside the traditional budget, that is the fiscal year 2024-2025. And then he said that he accused the government of illegally borrowing from the National Social Security Fund, NSSF. Unajua NSSF iliongezwa na hii ni pesa ya wananchi, so they're saying the government borrowed them, and say we can play politics with many things but not with workers money, forcing workers money, forcing NSSF to build roads is outside its mandate. So this is what he says has been happening, and NSSF roles is to ensure optimal investment of workers and savings. That is what Nyoro said, and there are a lot of things that he has claimed here. And alisema before nitoke hapo, asema the government is now forcing NSSF to invest in a large scale project so that certain individuals can profit, leaving workers with nothing. Even the IMF, that is the International Monetary Fund, is concerned about our fiscal management, and alisema we are heading down to the path of Zambia. That is what Nyoro said. And as I wind up on that story, anasema taxpayers allocate over 50 billion to intelligence. If they can't prevent disruption of protests, where are we spending such amounts? Shall the government cry while its citizens shall the government cry with its citizens when property is destroyed? That is a question he asked, while the interior docket spends that is 200 billion. 200 billion. The government must take responsibility. This is a report that came from Dindi Nyoro. So on everything that he has mentioned here, we really don't know if they are going to do a follow-up on this, or they will just give a blind eye. And I can see on the standard that is page 8 on the stadium that I have just mentioned, that is Talanta Stadium land saga. They're saying that wame-mention hapa na hata haijamalizika. They're saying the controversy over ownership of the land in Talanta Stadium sits continues in the corridors of justice, with the High Court blocking the prosecution of Nakuru-Kenya boss in a row over the surrender of 15 billion worth land. And they're saying that they have violated that is the money trial, and they're saying that 21 million court of the deal between the KPTAC and the cooperative, the Postal Housing Cooperative Societies over the 60 acres of land. And then we have that is 21 million amount awarded to the exclusive estates, and then that is we have that is 1.5 billion cost of agreement, sale agreement between Telcom and Aftraco Limited, same of the same property. And then we have that is 152 million, 10% deposit paid by Aftraco Limited for the property. And they said 15 billion, a value of the 60 acres of land on the Gong Road where Talanta Stadium sits. So I hope they'll check out these matters, because they're affecting our country a lot, especially when it comes to economic stability. And away from that, on other stories that is on the standard, that is page 10, they're saying that IPOA, IPOA, police killed, this is a statement, this is a report from IPOA. They're saying that police killed 65 civilians in 4 days of the latest protest that happened in our country, that is in June. And they're saying reports say that officers injured some 342 more unarmed citizens, people who are not unarmed, peacefully protesting out there. And the policemen and women were mostly the policemen and women were mostly hungry as they were not provided with meals. So could this have led this is interesting, that the policemen and women were mostly hungry as they were not provided with meals. So could this have led to the anger wakai project kwa citizens from this statement from IPOA? Probably, we don't know. And they say 65 people were killed during the recent demonstrations as police used force, according to the state funded policing watchdog. In a report released yesterday, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, that is IPOA, in a report that was released yesterday by the Independent Policing Oversight IPOA, said police failed to notify it about most of the fatal shootings that happened during the protest. And the authority said it observed significant breaches of constitutional policing standards, including lack of professionalism during the protest that occurred, that is in June 12th, 17th, 25 and July 7th, that is July 7th, ilikuwa Sabasaba protest. And IPOA deployed teams to monitor the protest following Albert Ojwang's death that led to the Gen Z protest. Then we have, that is the anti-finance bill 2024 that was happened, that is the protest that happened, that is in June last year. And then they say the anti-finance bill 2024 commemoration and the Sabasaba anniversary, that is what they're saying. So what will happen? And they're saying in its monitoring report, the authority also recorded 344 civilian injuries and 171 injury of police officers. So also the police officers were injured during this protest, according to the report that we're getting from, that is IPOA. It also noted that the officers deployed on the streets were not provided with meals. This is a statement that I've just read a few minutes ago. And so they're saying that the watchdog has recommended the Inspector General of Police to allocate sufficient budget to ensure that meals, water and allowances are provided for police officers deployed to provide security during the protest. So wewe kama mwananchi, do you feel that the police officers are being playing the roles that is in providing securities to the citizens, you know, and also to the businesses out there? I really want to hear from you. That is on 0799 200 100, and still on social media handles, that is on Facebook and YouTube at Mizpah TV Kenya. And also I hope justice will be found to the families that watu wao walikuwa injured, and also loss of lives to those people who are protesting peacefully. And also we say that maandamano is not a solution to everything. Shooting to kill is not a solution to what has been happening. Probably they find other measures and other tactics that will be peaceful, and there'll be no loss of lives that is in our country. So a good job to IPOA, because I can see still they're doing, that is the investigations on what has been happening, and also making sure that justice is found to the common wananchi and also the police as well. So thank you so much for tuning in for this amazing segment, that is the current affairs. That is what we had today, making sure that you stay updated of what has been happening that is in our country and beyond, because you know there are new stories each and every day. Hakukosi story mgeni. And just a reminder of something that is upcoming at Mizpah Press Center. I'll be having, that is the Mizpah School of Intercessory Prayer and Deliverance. And this is where you get unafundishwa mambo ya bondages, mambo ya curses. We'll be having different modules. We have module 1 where you get taught where you taught about deliverance from bondages, curses. Then module 2 utafundishwa mambo ya altars, at least to be able to differentiate the godly and the ungodly altars. Then you're taught about spiritual warfare, on how you're supposed to pray. Then module 4 you're taught the new Christian lifestyle, how you're supposed to live as a Christian, as a believer after you have been delivered. It will be happening August 2025. That is from the 11th to the 22nd. Intakes are ongoing. For more information, please contact, that is 07277665553. Still be having something that is upcoming, that is on August 2nd. That is the interdenominational prayer rally that will be hosted by Bahati and Subukia Sub-Counties Pastors Fellowship, and it will be happening at Mizpah Prayer Center from that is 9 a.m. Come, let's gather, let's pray for our land, let's pray for revival and also for peace in our country. Let's intercede for families, you know, the church and our nation itself. Don't forget, this segment has been sponsored by Stark Institute and Driving School. The courses that they offer, that is hospitality courses, driving courses, and ICT and cosmetology. There are various branches in Nakuru County, but the main campus is in Njoro Town on the Egerton Njoro Road. If you're interested, please visit their website on www.starkinstitute.ac.ke and register online to get a 10% discount. Still, you can use their email, that is info@starkinstitute.ac.ke. My name is Angela Kabete. Till next time, bye bye.